Clara hadn't felt her toes in over an hour. She sat at the bus stop with her arms wrapped tight around her knees, bare feet tucked under her worn jeans, trying to keep what little warmth she had left from escaping into the December night. The concrete bench felt like ice against her back. She'd sold her shoes that morning to a pawn shop for $12. It bought her a sandwich, a bottle of water, and 6 more hours before the hunger would claw at her stomach again. 24 years old, and this is what her life had become. No family, no friends who still answered her calls. Just a backpack with 2 shirts, a pair of socks with holes in them, and a photograph of her mother she couldn't bring herself to throw away. She didn't hear the footsteps at first. When she finally looked up, a little girl stood in front of her, maybe 5 years old, with dark curls spilling out from under a pink knit hat. The girl held out a crinkled paper bag, her mittened hands shaking slightly in the cold. "You look hungry," the girl said simply. Clara stared at her, then at the bag. "I'm okay, sweetie. You should keep that." But the girl pushed the bag closer, her brown eyes wide and insistent. "It's cookies. My daddy says cookies make everything better, even when it doesn't feel like it will." Clara's throat tightened. She took the bag with trembling fingers, and when she opened it, the smell of chocolate chips hit her like a memory she'd forgotten she had. Her grandmother used to make cookies like these, back when home was still a word that meant something. "Thank you," Clara whispered, and she meant it more than any thank you she'd ever said. The little girl sat down beside her on the bench, swinging her legs. "I'm Emma. What's your name?" "Clara." "That's pretty." Emma tilted her head, studying Clara's face with the kind of honesty only children possess. "Do you have a home, Clara?" The question landed like a stone in still water. Clara felt the ripples of it spread through her chest. She shook her head, not trusting her voice. Emma nodded slowly, as if this made perfect sense to her. "I don't have a mommy anymore. She went to heaven last year. Daddy says she's watching us, but I can't see her, so sometimes it's hard to remember what that feels like." She paused, then looked at Clara with sudden brightness. "Maybe you need a home, and maybe I need a mommy. Maybe we can help each other." Clara felt something crack inside her, something that had been frozen solid for months. Before she could respond, a man's voice called out gently from the sidewalk. "Emma, honey," we talked about wandering off. He was tall, mid-30s, with tired eyes and the kind of face that had seen too much sadness too soon. He walked over and knelt beside Emma, one hand resting protectively on her shoulder. Then he looked at Clara, really looked at her, and she saw something she hadn't seen in a long time. Not pity, not judgment, just recognition. Like he understood what rock bottom looked like, because maybe he'd been there too, in his own way. "I'm Michael," he said quietly. "Emma's dad." Clara nodded, clutching the bag of cookies. "I'm sorry. She just wanted to give me these. I didn't mean to." "You don't have to apologize." He glanced at her bare feet, and his jaw tightened. He stood up slowly, then crouched back down to Clara's level. "Look, I know this might sound strange, but it's going to drop below freezing tonight. We live 2 blocks from here. We have a guest room. You could stay just for tonight. Get warm. Get some rest." Clara's first instinct was to say no. She learned the hard way that kindness from strangers usually came with conditions. But when she looked at Emma, who was watching her with those hopeful, unguarded eyes, something inside her bent. "Just for tonight," Clara heard herself say. Michael nodded. "Just for tonight." Their home was small but warm, with mismatched furniture and drawings taped to the refrigerator. Emma gave Clara a pair of fuzzy socks and blanket, then insisted on showing her every stuffed animal in her room, introducing each one by name. Clara sat on the edge of Emma's bed, listening, and for the first time in months, she felt the tightness in her chest begin to ease. That night, Michael made soup. They ate together at the kitchen table, and he didn't ask her questions she didn't want to answer. He just talked about ordinary things, about Emma's love of dinosaurs, about the library where he worked cataloging books, about how some days were harder than others, but you kept going because what else could you do? Clara found herself talking too. Not about everything, not yet, but enough. About losing her job when the restaurant closed. About the eviction notice she couldn't fight. about the friend's couch that turned into a shelter, that turned into nothing at all, about how fast everything could fall apart when you didn't have anyone to catch you. Michael listened without interrupting, and when she finished, he simply said, "I'm glad Emma found you." One night turned into 3, then a week, then 2. Clara helped with dishes and laundry, played endless games of pretend with Emma, and slowly began to feel like a person again instead of a ghost moving through the world. Michael never made her feel like Charity. He made her feel like she belonged there, like her presence mattered. She told him she needed to find work, needed to stop being a burden. He told her the library was hiring part-time for shelving and customer service, and would she like him to put in a word? She said yes before she could talk herself out of it. The interview was terrifying. Clara wore clothes Michael's late wife had left behind, altered to fit, and she answered questions with shaking hands. But the manager saw something in her, some spark that hadn't quite died, and gave her a chance. Her first paycheck felt like a miracle. She insisted on paying Michael rent, even though he refused it twice. They compromised. She'd contribute to groceries and help with Emma after school. It was during one of those after-school afternoons, while they were coloring at the kitchen table, that Emma looked up at Clara with sudden seriousness. "Clara, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart." Emma chewed her lip. "Do you think you'll stay forever? Or just until you don't need us anymore?" Clara set down her crayon, her heart aching. "Emma, I don't think I'll ever stop needing you. You saved me, you know that? You and your dad." "But you saved us too," Emma said matter-of-factly. "Daddy smiles now. He didn't used to smile as much. And I like having you here. It feels like we're a family." Clara reached across the table and took Emma's small hand in hers. "We are a family." That evening, after Emma went to bed, Clara and Michael sat in the living room with mugs of tea. The silence between them was comfortable now, familiar. Michael finally spoke, his voice low. "I didn't think we'd ever feel whole again," he said. "After Sarah died, it was like the house echoed, like we were just going through motions." He looked at Clara. "You brought something back. Not Sarah. I know that. But something new. Something good." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. "I was ready to give up the night Emma found me. I didn't see the point anymore. And then this little girl hands me cookies and tells me I look hungry, like it's the most natural thing in the world to care about a stranger." She wiped at her cheek. "You both gave me a reason to keep going." Michael smiled, and it reached his eyes. She has a way of knowing what people need. Christmas came quietly. They decorated a small tree together, and Emma insisted on making ornaments with Clara's name on them, spelling it out carefully in glitter glue. On Christmas morning, Emma handed Clara a drawing. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands in front of a house. Underneath, in wobbly letters, it said, "My family." Clara pulled Emma into her arms and held her close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo, feeling the solid warmth of her. Over Emma's shoulder, she caught Michael's eye and the gratitude that mirrored her own. "Can I call you Mommy?" Emma whispered into Clara's shoulder. Clara's breath caught. She looked at Michael, who nodded, his eyes glistening. "Yes," Clara said, her voice breaking. "Yes, you can call me Mommy." Spring arrived slowly, turning the frozen world green again. Clara got promoted at the library. She and Michael began splitting parenting duties naturally, without discussion. Bedtime stories, school pickups, scraped knees, and homework help. They moved through their days like a unit, like they'd always been meant to fit together this way. One evening, as Clara tucked him into bed, the little girl looked up at her sleepily. "I'm glad I gave you those cookies," Emma murmured. Clara smoothed the hair back from Emma's forehead. "Me too, baby. Me too." She turned off the light and stood in the doorway for a moment, watching Emma's chest rise and fall in the dimness. Then she walked to the living room, where Michael was reading, and sat beside him on the couch. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for seeing me that night, for letting me stay." Michael set down his book and looked at her. "Thank you for staying, for choosing us." And Clara realized that was exactly what she'd done. She'd chosen them, and they'd chosen her. Not because anyone had to, but because sometimes the people who save you are the ones you save in return. Outside, the world continued on, indifferent and cold. But inside, in this small home filled with secondhand furniture and crayon drawings, there was warmth, there was belonging, there was family,